Welcome back to Frequently Speaking, where we break down words that we speak outwardly and how their vibrations create what we frequently see. In today's episode, we're going to delve into infinite P.O.P, which is point of perspective. Now, as we may know, our body is comprised of a lot of different aspects, but we can break these down into three main aspects, which is a me, a myself, and an I. You can best correlate this to mind, body, soul, mind, body, spirit, the cognitive, the physical, and the spiritual, however you want to break it down. So our first one on the key is going to be the mind. So with this, we can kind of think of our thought processes. We can think of the electrical synapses that happens in our brain that affects our body and affects our feelings and affects our central nervous system. And this is kind of where the electrical component of our body comes from, and it animates us. This is more so where we get our cognitive beliefs from, our cognitive processing, and also a lot of the other abilities like our psychic stuff and intuition and clairvoyance and all those other good things, but we'll get on that later. Our second aspect is going to be the body. So this we can think about as the physical aspect of us, our muscles, how we move, our action, things like that. So there's kind of like a process of your mind that affects the body, and this is what puts us into action and gets things done. And this is how we have an interaction with actual matter, and it makes the things that we think matter. It's how we can throw a punch, we can jump, we can create things, we can cook, we can hug, and all these different things that our body is actualizing in real life. And third aspect is going to be your soul or the spirit, whatever you want to say it as. Now, this is the aspect of you where it's not tangible, but you know that it's there. It's something that is based on like emotion, your spirit, your belief, what gives you faith. All these things that are intangible, they're not material, they're not of the mind. It's not a thought when you have like a gut instinct to do something. That it's almost like a brain in your gut. And these are all those ethereal pushings that give us that humanity within humans. So if we look at our points of perspective, what we're going to do is we're going to put one dot here for the soul. We're going to put one dot here for the mind. And we're going to put our last dot for the body. Now, as humans, we are experiencing this realm through time and in time. But the thing is, we have a mistake that time is linear. I don't know who told you that, kids, but it's not. You can definitely go back in time because you have memories, and memories are stored in your brain. Memories are points in time that you can recollect. You can go back and cure past traumas. You can go back and think about certain things that have happened and also revert back to your grocery list and make something happen now. So how is that not creating a reality which is in the present or the future based on something in the past, by changing something in the past or by recollecting something in the past? But we'll expand our perspective on that a little bit later. So if we take the concept of time and say that it is linear, right? And things happen in succession, not taking away the fact that things are happening simultaneously on the quantum level. We're not going to talk about that though. Not yet. So if we're thinking about this as time happens in a linear fashion, right? Now, for your body to do something, your mind has to tell it to do it, right? There's electrical synapses that happens in your brain that says, hey, pick up your hand and smack the hell out of somebody. So when we look at this, our body has that electrical synapses and it moves our muscle and it gives us action. So there's a process that's happening. Cool. Now, for our mind to think that, it has to come from somewhere. It has to come from an emotional reaction that sparks a thought then it gives an action like, hey, you know what? I need to pick up that glass because I'm thirsty. Where does that thirst come? It comes from the emotion or the craving that you have, or, I'm picking up this weight and I have the determination, I have the willpower to say, I am strong enough to pick this up. I'm going to grab this and go forth with it. So your spirit or your soul or that intangible force that is within you tells your mind, gives it a signal. Your mind gives your body a signal. So there's a process that happens here that we don't necessarily think about every day. And that's totally fine, because you'd probably drive yourself crazy. But that's why you have frequently speaking. So what we're doing is we're generally just putting this concept in our head of what is actually happening. Now, if we're just sticking to the concept of time, now you have a past, a present, and a future, right? So when your soul or your spirit has this instinct and has this emotion, this is the initial point where something starts to happen in your consciousness. Now, if we're recording it in time, then that would be the first action plan, the first hit, the first, movement, or the first initiation of anything. So by the time that emotion gets sent to your mind, if we're talking about time, this comes first, this comes second, this comes third. So if there is a time scheme that is going this way, we can most definitely say that the soul is connected to the past, our mind is of the present, and our body is technically the future. And this is just based on time solely. That is it. Just time. So for these things to actually happen, there has to be a response process. So when you have an instinct, right? This would technically be your instinct, which is your soul. This is something that is visceral. This is something that is intangible. Some of us deny it every day, but it is our instinct, and sometimes we go against our instinct. If we take the fact that our soul is an instinct and our mind is of what? You start to rationalize these thoughts. You start to rationalize these emotions, and you turn them into a thought. A lot of times you might get a gut feeling and say, hey, don't go down that alley. And then your mind says, well, we've been down that alley long enough. It's actually pretty bright. I don't really think there's any danger. And then boom, your body has the actual expression of either making that decision based off the rationale, which is of the mind, which comes from your instinct. And this is how your body expresses life. It expresses action. It expresses movement. It might express, sharpening your skills, as far as if you're a pro basketball player and you notice a guy is twitching his hand or a person is moving a certain way, you start to get in tune with that. And that's how you start to get that expression. Now, a lot of times when we look at this, we can say that our instinct may be skipped sometimes. Sometimes we don't go based off of our instinct. Sometimes we just go based solely off of our thought process. And this is what we are doing, moving of the mind. You do have an intuition, and that is of the mind, but it is in correlation with your actual spirit. Because what you're doing is you're tapping into that ethereal energy and that ethereal sense around you to read somebody else and have that intuit to actually express upon that. Now, as we know, there are scales to everything. There's a positive, there's a negative, there's a good, there's a bad, there's a light, there's a dark, there's all these different things. Now, our being moves in a cadence to everything, to external forces, to universal forces, to physical forces. Every force that is acted upon your body, there is a duality to it. So what we can say is there is a positive, There is a negative, there is a negative, and there is a positive. Either way we look at it, on both ends of the spectrum, however you want to see, there's ebbs and flows to everything. Now, when our mind, and we start to get into this cadence of flow, and we start to get into this cadence of fluidity, what we can do is we can look at it and put a picture to it. So if our soul is telling us and our spirit is telling us, you know what? I know that I can achieve this goal. I know that I can be as disciplined. I can be disciplined enough to eat vegetables every day. So what your body is doing is it's setting a tone. It's putting out this almost frequency to your mind. And it can either be positive or it can be negative. So that positivity can go right into your rationale or into your mind. Now, if your mind isn't strong enough and we don't cultivate it enough and we don't develop it enough, what it'll do is it'll either stay right here or it can go right to the negativity aspect and you won't make a decision. You know, you go into the future and your body will just express it however you see so fit. So there's no actual balance here. There's just, it's staying on an ebb and not necessarily an ebb and flow. And then what is it going to do? It's going to stop here because there's no actual balance. There's no flow to that. There's no opposition to that. So now what we do is we look at how we can get into this cadence of bringing that thought process back and making it an actual habit of ours. So if our mind, if our spirit tells us, hey, you know what, I do have that courage, I do have that discipline to do it, boom. And then your mind tells you, you know what, I absolutely do. And you know what, I'm going to the supermarket today. I'm going to pick up some apples. I'm going to write this grocery list. Let me do this. And this is what I'm going to do to get it done because I'm using my intuition to make this happen because I'm looking into the future, which is your expression. So now you stay on that positive cadence of that initial instinct coming in. And now you come this way and bring it right into your future. And then boom, you have this cadence where it's an ebb right into a flow. So once you have that flow and you get that expression and it starts to happen and you get that good feeling, you create that good feeling, what happens next is your body tells your mind, wow, that actually felt really good. So you know what? Let's do it again. But how can we do it again? Let's see how I feel about that. And it's going to send that signal right back to your mind and say, hey, you know what? That was really good. You know, I like how my body's feeling. Let's figure out how we can get a nutrition plan now. So now what your body does is it sends that signal to your mind and your mind goes, I do like how that made my body feel. And, you know, I'm feeling really good right now. I'm moving better. I'm, you know, intaking more. I can get better hydrated and more electrolytes in me. And you know what? I am going to get a nutrition plan. Now, where can I get that from? Like, do I really have the gusto and the courage? Do I really have the gusto and the courage to, you know, get it done? And it sends back that flow right into your spirit to look for an answer. And it looks into how those emotions are evoked from that expression from your body, because your body has to speak to your mind. Your mind has to speak to your spirit, because there's a process where we are three-dimensional beings. We are not only three-dimensional beings. We are actually 4, 5, 6, and on higher. But if we look at our directional paths, we look at left, right, up, down, back, forth. We think about in and out as that fourth dimension of ourself. So if our spirit is this visceral energy that's intangible, that is completely deeply inside of us, rooted in our blood and our DNA, as it permeates outwards, it hits our mind and it turns electrical. And that electrical current goes into our central nervous system, goes into our muscles, and then boom, it comes out here. And this is what we actually see. So there is a cadence of flow that happens from internal to external. And this is where we start to see an energetic flow of where we would like things to actually be and how we create things to actually become. Because after all, we are humans that are being. We are not human beings. This being is not this physical person. This is not this physical vessel. This is the human. We are in the act of being. We create things to become. This is the beauty of the cadence of infinite perspective. Now that we can fine-tune these points of perspective, what we can do on a daily basis is try to maintain a cadence of everything. In everything that we do, there's a cadence. This is not just for one thing. This is just for your grocery list so that you can get freaking Apple so you can start eating healthy and you can get on your path to creating a weight loss plan or creating the best results for yourself or creating some type of continuity within how you'd like to live. Fine. But if you apply this method of point of perspective in looking at things, not just solely of your body and not just solely of your mind, but also from your spirit and looking at it from that full spectrum, you're not only expanding your point of perspective, you are creating endless possibilities. Because a lot of people, we can say that we live in the present moment and we live for the future, but what about the past? If I told you time is linear, you can't change the past, whatever's in the past stays in the past, only focus on the future, go forward, bury that shit, it's in the past, survive, preservation, go forward, right? What I'm actually doing is telling your subconscious that there is a line right here. And your point of perspective is only going from here to here. Now your mind tells your body something. Your body tells your mind. It doesn't go anywhere else because your perspective of time and how this moves is linear. So you are telling yourself subconsciously and tuning yourself on a frequency of half your value. Now every day you hear something, you feel these emotions. This flow doesn't stop. It's only our perspective that dictates how we express things, that dictates how we rationale things, because we're supposed to stay in the present. Take a look. Use your perspective to widen your range of perspective and look into the past. By looking into the past, you tap into this complete spectrum of time that goes all the way through. Because this is your life. Life is infinite. Not everybody dies. Energy can't be created, it can't be destroyed, it has to be transmuted, it has to go somewhere. So if you are living a life of just mind, body, mind, body, mind, body, mind, body, this is a fucking circle. A fucking circle, bro. No. Open your mind, open your perspective, and understand that you have 3 points of perspective. And once you establish that, that's when your life becomes infinite. That's when you establish a general cadence through your entire life. And your soul is not just here sending that signal to your body and it's sending it to your mind and it's hitting a door. Sending it and hitting the door. How many times a day do you feel or you have a gut feeling that's telling you, it's telling you, hey, don't do that, and we don't listen to it. We're like, oh, don't mind, it's nothing. I'm thinking about it too much. And you're so of the mind that you're thinking about it too much that you don't even know that this energy is coming right here. It's coming right here. It's coming right here. And then it becomes stagnant. And we forget that we have that point of perspective right in here. So essentially, you're hindering yourself. You're hindering yourself from tapping in to this energetic field that is right here. So in staying in this circle, in this cycle of doing the same thing, you are restricting yourself to all of this energetic power that you have that is behind you, that is on a deeper quantum level inside of you, that intangible stuff that you can tap into as a human that is being. What we can do is break that cycle of that circular motion, just running in a circle, and then tap into it and say, hey, you know what? Let me look into my past a little bit. Let me look and tap into what my body is saying, what my spirit is saying, what my instinct and what my emotions are saying. All of these emotions that come in, you might have a feeling of pure just joy, and your mind is already telling you that it's rationalizing it as, okay, well, last time you felt that feeling, or last time this feeling hit this door, this emotion hit this door, it was, some type of trauma you experienced when you were younger. Then your mind is not going to tell your body, hey, we want more of this. So it's not going to send it back. It's going to send it right into the body and say, don't do that, or get away from that, or, go eat because you want to feel comfortable, because you don't want to go through this feeling again. You don't want to experience this feeling again. And it sends it right back to the mind. And the mind doesn't talk to the soul after that because it's a negative reaction. You don't want more of negative, so it's not going to revert that back into you. Your body is a survivor. Your mind is a survivor. Your soul is a survivor. It's going to keep this circular movement going right in here. And once that builds up too much, then your mind starts to say, okay, I think I need to listen to this. And sometimes it does break through. Sometimes you go off your instinct and you're just like, you know what? Fuck this fear. Fuck this. I'm going to go right for it. And you jump into it and boom, what happens? That's where that success comes in. Everything on the other side of fear is always growth. It's always betterment. It's always everything you ever wanted. And that's where we get that ultimate cadence of going from that spirit to the mind in through the body. And then that courage and that success and that good feeling comes back and it goes right back into your spirit. And you're like, you know what? I'm so glad that I did that. But somewhere along the line, we revert to putting up that wall again. You start to get into work. You start to think about the things that, this isn't going to happen or this isn't worth it. You start weighing it out and rationalizing it. You don't have to rationalize emotions. You don't have to rationalize instinct. Those are the things that bring you the greatness that you are meant to be. Now, everything that we do matters. The things in our life aren't called matter for no reason. This is made up of matter. So it's funny how we say, oh, well, what I do doesn't matter, or whatever I do doesn't matter. We're subconsciously telling ourselves that we can't create this matter. You 100% can, because everything materialized is entrusted to this universal law. This universal law of energy that is inside of you and is constantly moving between you and the world that is created and the reality that is created and the universe that is already out there that's creating you. It's all entrusted to this law, to this cadence, because everything is infinite. It's always going to keep going on. This world is made out of fractals, this whole realm, all of that good stuff. You can think of the fabric of time if you really want to get crazy. It's all fractals and it's going to keep happening. It's infinite. Energy can't be created and can't be destroyed. So why don't you tap into that? Now, if we look at this as far as a manifestation point of view, when we look at, I'm going to break this down, not in just 3, but 5 components now. So if we take our soul, our mind, and our body. Now, when you have an instinct or you have an emotion to do something, or you have that inspiration that comes out of nowhere, that is a concept. Like when people draw up a concept car, it's not real yet. It's not on paper yet. It's just a concept. It's an idea. But how do we make those things happen? How do we manifest those things? So essentially, from our soul, we have concepts. Now, concepts turn into a lot of different things, but the main thing what we want to do is we want to bring it into reality, right? And reality is a thing of the mind. It is how we realize things. You know, when you're like, oh shit, I did realize that I shouldn't be working out because, I should be working out because I'm pre-diabetic and I shouldn't be eating like sugar and shit. You have that realization to your head. Cool, no problem. So we're going to say the mind is your ration, right? Your mind is your realization. I'll just erase this just because. This is when you start to realize things, with your rationale. It's in that present moment. You're like, bam, this is a reality. This is something that I can make. Now, the next step would be to actually make it, right? That causes action. We need action. And we know that action is of the body so that we can so that we can make it happen. So this is what you make it an event. It is eventualizing something. So this is something that with that action and with that expression, that is how you eventualize something into your reality, just from a concept. So we're going to have eventualize here. Now, these are just the three main concepts that we are looking at from the soul, the mind, and the body, right? Now, there's these little ebbs here and these little flows here, right? So we can't necessarily always just jump from 1 to 2 to 3 because we'll just be moving and we're not really thinking about the means to that actual end. Because yes, we have point A and we have point B, we have point A and point B, but what happens within this? You think your energy is just going to shoot there, or you think that it is just going to happen? Yes, we're magical beings and I know that we're cosmic, awesome freaking creations, but what we want to do to create a plan into that manifestation is to break down and pay attention to these points, because we're talking about points of perspective. Now, you have any type of perspective that you can create, you can achieve it. So we're going to break these two down as well. So now, from a concept and between a concept and a reality, what we want to do is actualize it. So we can tell ourselves that preemptively, we're telling our mind with our spirit that this can actually happen. I can actually do this. So you're convincing your mind before it even gets to your mind. I know, shit's deep. So what we're going to look at is actualize. Now, when you're actualizing something, by the time that that energy comes from that concept, it gets a boost. Boom! And it hits your mind. And it's like, this is where I can fucking do this. Hell yeah. This is not just an emotion. It's not just an instinct. It's not that faint little voice that's in the back of your head saying, hey, yeah, I don't think you should do that. Hey, yeah, I think you should do that. Oh, yeah, you could do that. This is saying, this is like a stamp of approval when you get it. It's like getting a hologram Snorlax. You know what I'm saying? So by the time your mind, that energy or that concept reaches your mind, it is actualized and it has this actual stamp of approval from your spirit saying, I can do this. Once you realize that and you take that permeating and just powerful emotion and instinct, you then bring it into, and you're going to send it into your body. Your mind is already saying, yes, I can make this a reality and this can actually happen. This concept is about to ring true. So what am I going to do? I'm going to send this from my mind straight through my mind's eye, and I'm going to visualize it, because the powerful thing about the mind and your thought and all these electrical synapses is that we have imagination. We have the ability to imagine things, to visualize, to see it happen, to see the colors, to see the actual tangible things that we're about to eventualize into this reality. So the next one would be visualize. Now, when you visualize something, There's nothing stopping you from making it an event and having your body create it, because in your mind already, it already exists. So if it exists in your mind and it came from your spirit, it can definitely, most definitely be your reality. Now, the only thing that you're waiting on is that time. The only thing you're waiting on is that time to go through and convince your reality to matter. Because it takes time for things to matter. It takes time for things to materialize around emptiness. And that's what a concept originally is. It's emptiness. This is just giving it action and giving it expression. I'm putting it out there. That's what the intent behind it is. It's a physical intent on a physical world that is happening. Now, this is where we, as infinite beings, come into our manifestation. Because what happens is we start to carve out our life with these simple concepts. You start to carve into the fabric of life with every action, every expression. And what you do is you replay that concept from your mind, from your spirit, actualize it, realize it, visualize it, eventualize it, and you keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, and boom, that's when it hits. That's when it comes into your reality. That's when you manifest something. It's a constant cadence of flow going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, and you build up that momentum and you build up all of that energy into that same concept, and you push and you push and you dig and you dig and you make it happen. That's how consistency breeds manifestation. Consistency and discipline bring about all of this. Anything that you want to create in your actual realization or your reality or your present, you want to create it for your future, you send that intent out to the future. And it comes from the past. It comes from your instinct. It comes from your concepts, from your spirit, and it goes straight through. That's what happens with manifestation. So I say all that to say, we are infinite beings. Now, this is just a guide to gain your points of perspective so you can see how your energy is working, because this is all the intangible stuff that is happening as it's working through you. But sometimes we just get caught up in the world, and it just happens that we don't really pay attention to these points of perspective, but that is why I'm here. Now that we have a better insight on our infinite points of perspective, what we can do is utilize this knowledge and attain wisdom through this. Because gaining knowledge is nothing without applying it into the reality of what your life is and creating anything that you want through wisdom. So if you like today's episode of Frequently Speaking and you'd like to get a little bit more insight on how to carve out your life into your manifestations, subscribe to Maxwellness.fit and check out my program Carve, where it gives you a full, detailed, structured process through this concept, actual, realize, visualize, and eventualize point of perspective to create anything that you would like in your manifested life. Be sure to subscribe to my community at Maxwellness.fit and check out a couple more episodes of Frequently Speaking.